Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Noor Zainab, and in this video I am going to explain you about the human breathing system. Our cells need oxygen to survive. One of the waste products produced by cells is another gas called carbon dioxide. The respiratory system takes up oxygen from the air we breathe and expels the unwanted carbon dioxide to the outside. The main organs of the respiratory system is the lung. Other respiratory organs include nose, trachea, and the breathing muscles, which are diaphragm and the intercostal muscles. The respiratory system is made up of the organs which are involved in the interchange of gases. It consists of nose, mouth, throat or pharynx, voice box or larynx, windpipe or trachea, airways, which are also known as bronchi, and lungs. The respiratory system is made up of following parts, which will be discussed very deeply. External nostrils, which allow the intake of air. Nasal chamber is lined with hair and mucus to filter the air from dust and dirt. Pharynx is a passage behind the nasal chamber and serves as a common passageway for both air and food. Pharynx is consisting of three parts: nasal cavity, nasopharynx, oropharynx, and hypopharynx. Larynx is the sound box because it houses the vocal cords, which are paramount in the generation of sound. Epiglottis is a flap-like structure that covers the glottis and prevents the entry of food into the windpipe. Trachea is a long tube passing through the mid-thoracic cavity. Bronchi. The trachea divides into left and right bronchi. Each bronchus is further divided into finer channels known as bronchioles inside each lung. Alveoli. The bronchioles terminate in balloon-like structures known as alveoli. Here you can see two parts of the respiratory tract: the upper respiratory tract and the lower respiratory tract. The lungs are a pair of cone-shaped organs which are made up of spongy, pinkish grey tissue. They take up most of the space in the chest or the thorax, the part of the body between the base of the neck and the diaphragm. The lungs are covered in a membrane which is known as pleura. They are separated from each other by mediastinum. The right lung has 3 lobes, whereas the left lung has 2 lobes. Here you can see various parts of the human respiratory system: nose, pharynx, larynx, epiglottis, trachea, main bronchi, right lung, left lung, bronchioles, alveoli, the diaphragm. And the structure of the alveolus is zoomed. It is covered by a bed of capillary. The sinuses are hollow spaces in the bones of the head. The sinuses help to regulate the temperature of the air, lighten the bones and structure of the head, give tone to voice. Function of diaphragm. Diaphragm is a strong wall of muscle that separates your chest cavity from your abdominal wall. Pleura is a serous membrane that folds back on itself to form a 2-layered membranous pleural sac. The outer layer is called parietal pleura and attaches to the chest wall. The inner layer is called visceral pleura and covers the lungs, blood vessels, nerves, and bronchi. External and internal intercostal muscles are present between the ribs and assist in respiration. The word intercostal comes from 2 words: inter, which means between, and costal means ribs. So these muscles are present between the ribs. The external intercostal muscles are located lower border of the ribs, and the internal intercostal muscles are located internally. External intercostal muscles relax and lower the ribs, whereas external intercostals, when contract, raise the ribs. Alveoli are tiny balloon-shaped air sacs which are located at the end of the bronchioles, and they have a very large surface area. This is the structure of the bronchiole. This is the structure of an alveolus, and here you can see the blood capillaries. Deoxygenated blood is coming from the heart, whereas the oxygenated blood is returned to heart. The wall of the alveolus is only single cell thick, so oxygen can easily move into the blood, whereas carbon dioxide moves out of the blood, so the oxygenated blood is returned to the heart. Ventilation is breathing in and out of the air. Ventilation consists of inspiration, which is breathing in air, and expiration, which is breathing out air. It is controlled by the movements of diaphragm, internal and external intercostal muscles, and rib cage. Inspiration. During inspiration, the external intercostal muscles and diaphragm contract. This causes the rib cage to move upwards and outward, and the diaphragm to flatten, which increases the volume of the thoracic cavity. Thoracic cavity is a space where lungs are present. As the volume of the thoracic cavity increases, the lung pressure decreases below the atmospheric pressure. Air will always flow from an area of high pressure to an area of lower pressure. It is down the pressure gradient. So air flows down the trachea and into the lungs. Inspiration is an active process because it requires energy. During expiration, the external intercostal and diaphragm muscles relax. The rib cage moves downward and inwards, and the diaphragm becomes curved again. The volume of the thoracic cavity decreases and causes the air pressure to increase above the atmospheric pressure. Air is forced down and the pressure gradient and out of the lungs. Normal expiration is a passive process because it does not require energy. Expiration can be forced though, for example, if you want to blow out the candles on your birthday cake. During forced expiration, the external intercostal muscles will relax and internal intercostal muscles contract, pulling the rib cage further downward and inward. During this time, the movement of the two sets of intercostal muscles is said to be antagonistic or opposing. The first figure shows inspiration, whereas the second figure shows about expiration. During inspiration, the volume of the chest increases, the pressure is lowered inside the chest, atmospheric pressure forces air into the lungs expand until the pressure is equal inside and out. Whereas during expiration or breathing out, the volume of the chest decreases, the pressure increases and air is forced out of the lungs until the air pressure inside and outside of the chest is equal again. So this is flowchart of expiration or inspiration. You have to identify. Intercostal muscles are contracting and pulling the ribs upward, and diaphragm contracts and pulls down. Volume of the chest is increased and air is forced into the lungs until pressure inside and outside is equal. Intercostal muscles relax and ribs move upward. Volume of the chest decreases, air pressure in the lung increases, air is forced out due to the increased pressure in the chest until the pressure inside and outside is equal. So this is the difference between inspiration and expiration. During inspiration, diaphragm moves downward and flattens, whereas during expiration, the diaphragm is moving upwards and it is becoming more dome-shaped. The rib cage moves upward and outward during inspiration, whereas during expiration, the rib cage moves downwards and inwards. Volume and pressure changes include the volume inside the thorax increases during inspiration, whereas during expiration, the volume decreases. Similarly, the diaphragm contracts and it is moved downward during inspiration, whereas diaphragm relaxes and moves upward during expiration. The muscles in the abdomen wall relax, allowing pressure from the diaphragm to push it out, whereas muscles in the abdominal wall contract, pushing the abdominal organs and diaphragm upwards during expiration. Movement of the rib cage during inspiration. The external intercostal muscles will contract and pull the rib cage upward and outward during inspiration, whereas during expiration the external intercostal muscles will relax and will be pulled back into their elongated state. During inspiration, the internal intercostal muscles relax and are pulled back into their elongated state. The internal intercostal muscles contract during expiration and pull the ribcage inward and downward. So, what's the basic difference between respiration, gaseous exchange, and breathing? Respiration is a series of chemical reactions which happen in all living cells, in which food is broken down to release energy, usually by combining it with oxygen, whereas gaseous exchange is the exchange of gases across a respiratory surface. For example, oxygen is taken into the body and carbon dioxide is removed from it. Gaseous exchange can also take place during photosynthesis and respiration of plants. Breathing includes muscular movements which keep the respiratory surface supplied with oxygen. So let's look at the comparison of inspired air and expired air. Inspired air consists of 21% oxygen, whereas expired air consists of 16% oxygen. This is because oxygen is absorbed across the gaseous exchange surface, then it is used by cells in respiration. Inspired air consists of 0.04% carbon dioxide, whereas expired air consists of 4% carbon dioxide. This is because carbon dioxide is made inside during respiring cells and it diffuses out across the gaseous exchange surface. Argon and other noble gases, they remain the same 1% in both inspired air and expired air. The water content in inspired air is variable, but in expired air it is always high. This is because gaseous exchange surfaces are made up of living cells, so must be kept moist. Some of this moisture evaporates into the air. Temperature of the inspired air is variable, but the temperature of the expired air is always warm because air is warmed as it passes through the respiratory surface. Please like, share and comment, and if you have any questions you can comment in. Thank you so much for watching.